And that's it, man. That song makes me feel invincible. What I'm going to be talking about is that love makes the difference. It makes the world go round. Now, I'll tell you that my wife makes me feel like I can accomplish great things, but it is my Lord that makes me feel invincible. But first I'm going to talk about my wife because she is awesome and she's not here at the moment, so I get to talk about her a little bit here. Now, you've heard it said that behind every great man, there is a great woman. And she makes me feel like I am a great man, that I can accomplish anything. I am a great man. I must be. I mean, have you not met my wife? At least now you know what she has to put up with all the time. It's me, and there she is. All right on cue. Now, I got to tell you that the reverse must also be true. Behind every great woman, there is a great man. She can't stay in her greatness unless I'm feeding it, unless I'm encouraging it because if all I am doing is taking from her and taking from our relationship, what does she become? Well, you know what she becomes. You might be living with one right now, but don't forget you played your part in that, okay? Now, but the only person I know who achieved greatness without receiving anything in return from us, there was only one of them that did it. But how it works for the rest of us here is that we encourage one another to love and good works. We encourage each other. That encouragement, it just builds and it builds and it builds until we're able to achieve greatness together. Love makes the difference. Now, I could stop right there if you've heard everything that I'm saying. I'd be done with my talk, mission accomplished, check the box, if you got all that. But I got a feeling that that you didn't catch it. I imagine that some of you are in the room here right now thinking to yourselves, he said he's a great man. Stuck on that line, he said he's a great man. Look at him up there. He must have some sort of Napoleon complex. Little man thinking he's all that. Well, if you don't believe that I'm a great man, then I would tell you that you must struggle with perhaps your own potential. So let me help you out a little bit about how this works. See, I don't buy into what you are thinking. I don't believe that what the world would tell me. In fact, if I'm listening to the world, they might be having me believe something that is not entirely true. Here, what I'm talking about is this beauty of having our love tanks filled up. Because I don't need you to believe that I'm a great man. I don't need to convince you that I'm a great man. I already know it, and I can prove it to you. Who here enjoyed that prime rib last night? All right, there we go. There's some hands going up. And I tell you, was that good or what? Now, I got to tell you, I didn't prepare it. I didn't serve it. I didn't even oversee the production of it, but that was my idea right there. Chalk one up right there. Okay. So one in the great man column here. Yeah, personally, I love food. Those of you who ate the chicken last night, probably not so much. You know, I don't think that food is that big on your priority list. It's probably all about the sustenance of it, getting something in you, so I love food. When I think about all of the great meals I've ever eaten, and I can picture them. I mean, it's not important to me. The memory of those moments, it starts coming back to me. The food, the aroma, the flavor of it. And I start remembering the venue, where I was at, the people I was sitting with, possibly even the conversations that we were having there. That's why I wanted to serve prime rib last night. I wanted to serve salmon last night. And yes, even chicken. I wanted to serve chicken last night because I'm hoping that you remember this weekend. I'm hoping that you remember the things that were said. I'm hoping that you remember the commitments that you made in your heart. That's what I'm shooting for. I think food might even be its own love language. I remember running a kitchen at Tres Dias. It's a weekend that we have around here, a non-denominational retreat that we have, and we served a prime rib that Saturday night. The men had already been there since Thursday. We're actually reaching towards the apex of the weekend there, and we roll out this perfectly cooked prime rib meal. It was a sight to behold. It had to have been the favor of God in that. We had to hold that prime rib for 40 minutes. Had the oven shut off. I'm babying this meat thermometer, hoping it keeps it right at that perfect temperature. And then when the men rolled in, we cut into it, and it was this gorgeous pink throughout it, and we served it, and it was amazing. And then when the weekend concluded, one of the wives came up to me, and she said, I got to thank you for serving that meal. She said, my husband wasn't perhaps quite getting what the weekend was all about until all of a sudden he looked down and he saw that, and he realized all of the effort that had gone into it. And he realized he was being showered in love. So I wanted to shower you in love here. Amen. Love makes the difference. It changes our perspective on everything. So knowing our love language and our partner's love language, it makes the difference. I mean, do you want your spouse to be a great person? Do you want them to achieve all the things that God has put into their heart? Do you want them to see their dreams realized? Then fill their love tank up. That's what I'm encouraging you to do. Folks, we wouldn't be doing this weekend right now if my love tank wasn't filled up. Not with me, anyways. Yeah, see, God, you can never discount God. God always has a way of getting things done. Always. So you probably wouldn't have me up here. You might still be here listening to other talks, possibly by other speakers, because God's heart is for you, and he's pursuing you whether you realize it or not. Unfortunately, God's used to people telling him no. But I said yes, and apparently so did you. And here we are. My primary love language is words of affirmation. When I think of all the times that I've said yes and pushed towards something greater than myself, I recall all of the voices of encouragement I heard calling out to me. I heard, "You can do it, Rob." It's the voice of my dad. We're in the backyard. I'm tossing around the discus. He's encouraging me. He's telling me all of the stories of him and his buddies growing up in high school. They would take these cast iron stove plates, and that's what they were out there practicing with. "You can do it, Rob." I hear him cheering from the sideline at my track meet as I toss that discus further than anyone else in the state of Nebraska that year. I heard, "This is really cool, Rob." It was my English teacher. She was telling me as I turned in a manuscript I'd written over my summer vacation. She encouraged me to finish it, and she got it. All of our high school English teachers to help to edit it, and then all of our high school typing classes, really before the days of computers, all of the high school typing classes to finish typing the completed manuscript in time to send it off for the Avon Flair's Young Novelist Competition. It was the first time in my life I experienced this 15 minutes of fame you hear about. The Associated Press picked up on the story of me, high school athlete turned novelist, and it printed in papers all around the Midwest. People I didn't even know were sending me these clippings in as it ran in their hometowns. I heard, "I love you, Rob," as my high school sweetheart accepted my proposal for marriage, and she's been encouraging me ever since, 33 years now. She's encouraged me through a 20-year career in the U.S. Army. She stood beside me where she could. We experienced life together in Germany, Panama, Puerto Rico. She even came for a quick trip to see me in Korea, not to mention all the stateside assignments that we've held together. 8 of our 20 years in the military were spent apart, but she sent me cookies and gifts, and she most especially wrote me love letters that I cherish. I got to be on the fringe of history as it was being written many times. I like to think that I helped write some of it. We were over in Germany during the Cold War, the very height of the Cold War, and I heard President Reagan say, "Mr. Gorbachev, tear these walls down." And I saw people flooding out of the east with all their possessions on the tops of their vehicles coming into the west. I had an opportunity to help to deliver the remains of Rudolf Hess to his family, our final Nazi war prisoner that we held on to, and the four powers closed out the prison that we held together in Berlin. I served in the demilitarized zone in North Korea as the grandfather, Kim Il-sung, passed away, and we all thought we were going to war because he wanted to be buried in Seoul. Christina and I had an opportunity to serve in Panama and hand over the Panama Canal to the government of Panama under the Carter-Torres Treaty. I had an opportunity to help with 20,000 Cuban refugees as they fled out of their country trying to get to the United States. It was the second Mariel boat lift. I served as a diplomat to the former Soviet Union and was a START treaty inspector. And I'm just so blessed at all the support that I've had from my wife. I heard Dada for the first time when I was blessed to be at home, lying in bed with my wife and daughter at 3 a.m., heard her first word spoken. Now those are words of encouragement when you're told who you are. We've raised 2 kids together. Delaney, our first, who spoke those words and is now married and living in Oklahoma City, and Derek, our second, who's a junior at Flathead High. I heard, "I believe in you, Rob," as my wife held my face in her hands and stared into my eyes. We just lost our family business and life savings in the recession of 2008. I was without work, just been declined again for another job opportunity, and was reaching the lowest point in my life. And when you arrive there and you're not sure that you believe in yourself anymore, I mean, those are the words that give you hope and make you just pull up your pants because your family is counting on you and they're not giving up. If we're going to get through this life together, folks, we need our love tanks filled up. Those of you who have been married for some time now, you already know what I'm talking about. Life throws us challenges and curveballs. Sickness hits. Accidents happen. Jobs get lost. Opportunities get missed. Bills don't get paid. Worry and fear set in. And when you don't feel loved in those moments, who do you turn to? Where do you turn? When you're fighting and arguing, how do you even overcome anything? Because all your energy is just consumed in that. Gary Chapman wrote these words in his book. He said, if we do not feel loved, our differences are magnified. We come to view each other as a threat to our own happiness. We fight for self-worth and significance, and the marriage becomes a battlefield rather than a haven. You can't reach your potential if you are wrestling with this desire that we all have to be loved. We want to be loved, and when we don't have it, we're just stuck there. We all have this hierarchy of needs. I'm sure you all know Maslow's hierarchy of needs chart, right? You saw it in high school. We have that physiological needs. It's at the very base. Food, water, shelter. We desire it. We have safety needs for our security. We have these psychological needs. We have this desire for intimate relationships, this desire for love and friendship. Now, this is right at the center, which I love about that. because we all want to be loved. And hopefully you've learned that in order to be loved, you need to be love for another. This is the glue that holds it all together, and it's in times, this day and age that we live in now, this time that we live in, we're not probably worried so much about starving here in America. But without love, it's difficult to climb any higher, to meet our esteem needs that we have, this feeling of accomplishment in this world. Once we get this settled that somebody loves us, we're trying to strive for something beyond ourselves. And possibly without love, maybe it can be done. I think one day that somebody's going to discover the cure for Alzheimer's, and I gotta believe, though, that whether they're in a relationship or not, they're going to tell us that the driving force that pushed them to succeed was their love for another. When our love tank is full, we can achieve our full potential and self-fulfillment of a life well lived. But there's one thing I want you to know that Maslow's chart doesn't tell us. We have a God-sized hole right here in our hearts. We're desperately trying to find all sorts of ways to fill that hole. And when he fills it, though, when we get him to fill that hole, that God-sized hole that only he can fill, we get then this opportunity to reach this self-actualization. Not only that, I'll tell you, we get a chance to achieve invincibility. Oh, you may break, but you cannot be broken. We can get crushed, but we can never be separated from the love of God. And with this knowledge, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Philippians 4:13. I want one last thing to share with you here. I want to tell you about my son, Derek. I love my boy so much. There was a time I worked hard to mold my boy. In fact, I might have even worked hard to change my boy. I wanted this miniature version of me, my mini-me. Do you have mini-me's in your house? I wanted a mini-me. I did. He listened, in fact, for quite a time to everything I said. Derek, it's time to get to bed, man. He jumped up. He turned off the TV or the video game player or whatever, and he got right to bed. It was really cool. We had similar thoughts. We enjoyed the same things. Then one day, as he was becoming a teenager, well, you know what happened, don't you? At this particular time, it was time to try out for football again. And he didn't want to go. He didn't tell old Dad that, but I took him to practice anyways, and he got his uniform. And we went home that night, and then I guess he got brave enough to tell me he had this change of heart. Apparently, he didn't want to be that guy anymore who would put on shoulder pads and run out there to go smash into other guys. And I tried all I could that evening to persuade him, but he wouldn't budge. There were tears, there were emotions, there were raised voices, but he was resolved, and I was brokenhearted. I made him the next day personally go and return his uniform to his coach and tell him why he didn't want to go out for football anymore. And boy, he grabbed it and he marched right on across that field, paraded almost in front of all of his classmates that were out there already in their uniforms and ready. And he told his coach, and he handed it in, and he came on back to the truck to see me. And the only thing I could say to him at that moment is, I am proud of you, son. You know who he became his own person. In that moment, he became his own person. Now, he may not have known exactly who he was, but he knew who he didn't want to be. And I said, I am proud of you, son. There's really little that I believe we personally can do to change other people. I imagine our marriage counselor would tell us that's accurate. We certainly can't change our children. We certainly can't change our spouses. Love is a choice. It's far better to accept them for who they are, understanding what they really want in life, and then being love to help them achieve it. We need to be love. Last month, my son really amazed me. He placed in this regionals poetry reading deal we had up at the college, Poetry Out Loud. We went up there to see him. I just enjoyed it. I enjoyed watching him perform poetry in front of an audience, probably about this size, if not larger. And I didn't see it coming. Didn't see it coming at all. But I think I found my mini-me once again as I looked up there and I saw him. His confidence and how he carried himself. I was so blessed, actually, then again, once again, to see some of my influence coming over him. But I'll tell you that my son knows that he is loved. And it gives him this confidence that he needs to go and face the challenges of this world. When we shower others in love, our natural, God-given talents and abilities, they just come to light. So, go be love and be light to one another. That's all I got. God bless you.